All right, so hopefully you just took the quiz and you might have noticed that there were some questions on there that we hadn't really covered. But remember, again, our goal is not really to cover everything. If that was the case, it would probably take a lot more time to actually get things done. So another thing I want to discuss for those of you who have already taken the Chapter 1 quiz and test, I don't know what your situation is, but I do know that in most situations that I saw, people did a decent job on Chapter 1 quiz, and then it's like they forgot everything from the quiz on the test. So make sure you take this seriously, because again, in my opinion, Chapter 2 can definitely put you in position to get your way back to where you need to be. Just make sure you make the most of this time, and let's see what happens. X plus 7 equals 10. Don't forget, again, this is just making sure we remember our fundamentals here. When you see plus 7, put minus 7. Don't forget to show the work. Don't forget to show all the stuff. X plus 5 equals 3. Don't forget to, again, show that when it's minus 5, we put plus 5 using the opposite. When it's 5 times x, remember that means 5 times x. We end up doing divided by 5 for x equals 9. And when it's x over 2 equals 7, this is where we multiply by 2 to go ahead and get rid of those 2's and bring down x equals 14. Now, like I said, those are not on the test, but the key thing here to remember is that that's the foundation of pretty much everything we're doing. Everything else is kind of built on it. It just kind of goes 1 or 2 steps away from it, and everything else goes from there. 4x plus 1 equals 9. So again, the first thing, if you remember, is that we move the addition part. It's almost like, or should become almost like muscle memory. After that, now it's 4 times x, so we'll divide by 4 on both sides, getting x equals 2. 9x minus 2 is 25, so what we do here is, again, get rid of the number first, so minus 2 becomes plus 2 to make it go away. 25 plus 2 is 27. You then will divide by 9 on both sides and end up with x equals 3. So again, hopefully this is just review, but again, the importance of us doing this is trying to make sure we don't repeat, again, what I saw in a lot of those quizzes, which was you did well on the quiz and then you took the test and for some reason we forgot about it. So I'm going to try to make sure I go over this stuff with you so that we can hopefully keep this in your memory for the next test, because I think that it can actually, again, do a real good job for you. 17 minus 7 ends up being 10. That means 2 times x, so we divide by 2, ending up with x equals 5. Here we have 4x minus 3 is 17, so what we'll do is add 3 to both sides. Again, the minus 3 becomes plus 3. 17 plus 3 becomes 20. And from there, divide by 4, because that's 4 times x, to get x equals 5. Again, the funny thing I recognize with all this stuff is you have a 4 on top and bottom, 2 on top and bottom, 9 on top and bottom, 4 on top and bottom. Whenever you have the division, you have a 2 on top and bottom. So it's kind of like if there's already a number on the bottom, put it on the top. And if there's not a number on bottom, then put the number on the bottom. So it's kind of like the logic kind of takes care of itself as you look through it, because it really does. Like I said, it's a very simple process. Just make sure you try to learn as much as you can in terms of doing it. Once again, on number 9, we will get rid of the added or subtracted number first, because that is a fraction with a plus 2 kind of tagging along. So you bring down your x over 3 and your 3, and once again, we already have a number on the bottom, so this time we put our number on top. Those two things go away, and x comes down with 9. On number 10, x over 2 minus 4, once again, get rid of this number first because it is the tag along number. And then notice there's already a number on the bottom, so we put the number on the top. The 2's go away, x comes down with 10. On number 11, again, move that number. Plus 3 becomes minus 3, so we put x over 5 equals what, 3? And then from there, notice we have a number on the bottom, so we put our number on the top. It works like that almost every single time. X over 4 minus 2. So here again, move the 2 first. You have a 4 on the bottom being divided, so we multiply by 4. The 4's go away, and x is equal to 20. So again, it's not a tough situation. You just got to make sure you're ready for it. On the other one, which again is different, looking at these two, there is a difference. the difference here is that x and 5 are a fraction, which means they're directly attached and you can't really separate them. And the plus 3 is like a virus attached to it, or like the best friend. These two are on a date, and that's the best friend just there. That's the first person that's going to leave because these two are on a date. In this situation here, it's not the same. It's not x over 3 plus 1. It's x plus 1 all over 3, which in this case you can imagine it as x and 1 are upstairs hanging out. 3 is sent to the basement to be by themselves. So this is really the weaker one right here, because that would be the person who's not even in the same room with these two. I don't know how you want to think about it, but to me, just make sure you understand again that to get rid of this 3, because it's on the bottom, as I said, 1 on bottom, 1 on top, you put the 3 on top. These two things go away and bring this down exactly as it is. From there, finish it off. Here, x minus 3 over 2. Once again, these two are together on the top floor. This person has been sent to the basement. Get rid of the 2 first, because that again is the weaker of those numbers. Again, since 2 is on the bottom, bring a 2 to the top. Those two things cancel out. Bring this down exactly as it is, and then go from there. Again, the way you get rid of minus 3 is with plus 3. The way you get rid of plus 1 is with minus 1. That goes all the way back to the first stuff that we did to start this worksheet. And the stuff we're going to do every day to start these worksheets, because again, I don't think it's that bad. I think that we can do a good job on this test. And like I said, I do believe that you can actually get your credit for this quarter if you just, make sure you practice this stuff. X plus 4 over 5 equals 2. Again, this 5 is the first number to go because it's on the bottom, so we put a 5 on top. The 2 5s go away. From there, we do x plus 4 because that's what comes down, equals 10. And then we go from there. On this one, x minus 7 over 3. Again, that 3 is on the bottom, so what we're going to do is get rid of it by multiplying, by putting it to the top. X minus 7 comes down, and then from there, the minus 7 becomes plus 7, making x equals 10. 17 and 18, we didn't really cover much. I mean, you only got 2 of them, but it's the same thing as 1 through, or whatever it might have been, 5 through 8. I don't know what the numbers were, but it's the same thing. You get rid of the 4 first by subtracting 4. Don't forget to bring down the full negative 3x. 13 minus 4 is 9. Remember, that's negative 3 times x. There's not a 3 on the bottom, so we put the negative 3 on the bottom. Those two things cancel. X comes down, and don't forget when you divide a positive by a negative that it makes a negative answer. Here, negative 2x minus 7 equals 3, so we are going to do plus 7 plus 7. Those go away. Divide by 2, or negative 2. Again, these two things go away. Again, don't forget when you divide a positive by a negative, your answer will be negative. The 10 divided by 2 doesn't change. The 9 divided by 3 doesn't change. But again, the negative sign makes it negative. And then 19 and 20, once again, you have a fraction. So to me, you can go either way. But to me, the best thing to do is get rid of this part because we don't really like the fractions. So what I would do is put a 3 on top because there's a 3 on the bottom, just like we did here. And so we put a 3 on top. These two things cancel. The 2 and the x comes down. 4 times 3 turns into 12. Ending up with x equals 6. Here, 3/5 x equals 6. 3 over 5 times 5 times 5. Those two things go away. 3x comes down with 30. From there, you go ahead and divide 30 by 3, which of course 3 goes into 30 10 times before it's there. So that represents everything that we covered. Again, I know everything wasn't on the quiz, but again, my goal for you has more to do than just getting you A's. If your goal was to get A's, we shouldn't even be in this situation. So what we're trying to do is just make sure you get as many points as possible so you can kind of fix your quizzes. So that way we can focus on things that you can definitely get right. Don't worry so much about the fractional stuff. And by fractions, I don't mean this stuff. I'm sorry. This stuff or this stuff, because that's really not fractions to me. That's just get rid of the bottom number. The stuff I'm talking about is the ones where it's like x plus 1/3 equals 2/5, and you have to actually subtract 1/3 from 2/5. I don't need you to know all that, and like I said, that's fine. Or anything else that has fractional work where you have to actually go through and do all that. So mainly looking at this, new information. New is in parentheses because it's really not new, which is why if you did mess up on the test, on the quiz last week, it's because you didn't remember the stuff from the first chapter test, because this was all on chapter 1. It's distributive property. And so this week we're going to focus on it because, again, that's what it is. But again, the 10 out of 14 is the goal. And once again, I want to kind of, if I can, let's see, I might have to use my phone. But 10 out of 14, just for proof. Get that dust off the thing. 10 divided by 14 is a 71% again. So again, a C on a test, I think definitely will make a big difference in your grade. So if you focus on these questions that we're going over this week, if you try your best to make sure you get as much as you can, you actually might even get more than 10. But bottom line is, I think that the 70% will definitely do you well. Don't forget, again, in distributive property, that all you got to do is take 2 times x, which is 2x, then 2 times 3, which is 6. Notice the plus sign doesn't change. There's nothing special about these distributive property problems that are on the test. You simply take 2 times x, push them together. 2 times 3, 6. 3 times x, 3x, minus 3 times 4, 12. Again, the sign even comes down. Nothing changes. There is nothing tricky about the questions that are going to be on this test. It's just a matter of whether or not you can slow down enough to do what you need to do. 5 times x becomes 5x. Keep the sign. 5 times 6 is 30. As long as you're not putting 5x plus 6 or 5x minus 30, just be careful on that. But like I said, I don't think that this is tough. I think it's just something where you have to actually pay attention and care enough to just do it the right way. But outside of that, that's it. All right, so the question that we did not cover last week that we are going to cover this week for the test is these. But again, here's the thing. I can't solve this. I don't know what to do because I've never seen this before, which means I need to get to what I call home base. And to me, home base is, hold on real quick, let me go through all my sheets. Home base is these. And so I want it to look like that, but right now it doesn't. And so my first job is to distribute because that's all I can do. So you take your 4 times x, which is 4x. You take your 4 times 2, which is 8. You keep everything else the same. Now all of a sudden it looks just like the problem that we worked before. So we subtract 8 from both sides. 20 minus 8 is 12. We divide by 4, getting the answer of x equals 3. That's it. So again, the only thing that's different about this is that you have to do this step first to get to where we were to start this whole thing. It's not any different than the problems that we've been doing all last week. You just have to make sure you take your time when you see the distributive property and actually distribute. So once again, here 3 times x plus 2, 3 times x becomes 3x, 3 times 2 becomes 6. From there, we're home. Subtract the 6, bring down 3x, 15 minus 6 is 9, divide by 3, divide by 3. You should notice that usually when your teacher is working on these things, they kind of speed up from there because that's an automatic thing. This is like tying your shoes. When you first started tying your shoes, you had to think about it. You had to go through the whole bunny ears or whatever else you do, whatever you were taught. But once you did it enough times, you honestly tie your shoe and don't even think about the process anymore. It just goes straight through. And that's what should happen. Use the opposite, divide. Use the opposite, divide. Use the opposite, divide. The only difference is, like I said, this doesn't look like what we need. But from experience, we should know this is distributive property. So we distribute 5 times x, 5 times 1, bring down the rest. Hey, we're home. So work it out as normal. Plus 5 becomes minus 5. 5x divides by 5, giving us the final answer of x equals 8. So to me, again, I don't think this is tough. I think it's just something you have to actually choose to do. So do me a favor, go ahead and pause the video and work on the next, I think it's 6 questions, and see what you can do. Again, if you haven't paused the video, go ahead and do that. I'm about to start now. Once again, this is home. Minus 7, 2x equals 20. Divide by 2, and x is 10. Similar problem, but not the same, but it's still kind of like home. Plus 3, bring down your x over 2. Again, here, multiply by 2, and x is equal to 14. Again, the reason we don't get rid of this first is because in this situation, those two are a fraction, and this is the tag along, just like that was the tag along. It blatantly is attached to x over 2. This is blatantly attached to 2x to a plus or minus sign. So that's why you get rid of that number first, because those two numbers are just barely attached to them. Just like on number 30, this plus 1 is just attached to negative 3x. So we get rid of the plus 1 first. Now that's negative 3 times x. So again, we divide by negative 3. Remember that when the positive divides by a negative, your answer is negative. Getting the answer of negative 5. On 31, again, these two are together. That one's sent to the basement. 3 has to go. That goes away. Don't touch anything on the top. You leave it alone exactly the way it is. And then from there, you go ahead and solve as usual. 3/2 x equals 9. Again, the pattern, the theory here is get rid of the fraction first. You see a 2 on the bottom, send a 2 to the top. These two things go away. 3 and x come down with 18. From there, we divide by 3, and x is equal to 6. And then the last one, which was the new one for today, this is just distributive property. Yes, it looks different, but it's just distributive property. Ignore that, and that's the distributive property from chapter 1. So you do what you've been taught to do, which is multiply this by both things. Now all of a sudden it looks just like that problem, which is what we're going for. So minus 6, 3x equals 21, divide by 3, and x is equal to 7. Stick with me this week. Again, make sure you do your best to work on your Math XL and get your practice. 10 out of 14 is a 71, and I think you can do it. I think you can honestly do it. I honestly also think, because we actually have 4 days to practice this week, that you could actually even get more than 10, because we're actually going to cover one more thing. But again, the overall goal is just the first 10. So as long as you can get to that first 10, I think it should make a difference in your grade. Remember, we are not starting from scratch. You are simply replacing your second quarter grade or third quarter grade to try to make sure you get the credit for the third quarter, which actually should get you credit for everything else before the third quarter. So outside of that, I'll talk to you later, and have a good day.